All right, so we've begun rolling. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining and welcome to the Xena cycle, to the yoga cycle PTG. And we're kicking off with the Xena cycle retrospective. Um, Xena is now behind us. We've shipped the code on the 6th of October, um, if I recall, but it's been a while, and we've already started working on this on the yoga cycle, and all of the changes that you're making are going to be you know part of the yoga cycle that we're going to ship in March of 2022. Um, so at the get-go, I think we've had a pretty remarkable cycle, and I'm not going to go too much into detail of what we shipped. I mean, all of that has been published over the past couple of weeks. We had an open infra session that discussed some of the cycle highlights, but more importantly, I think a lot of the thing that we've captured, we've tried to make um, improvements to make sure that it's there in the release notes. So definitely take a look at that if you're looking at what's the diff between the Wallaby cycle and the Xena cycle. So now it's time for us to take a look back and see what we did right, what we could do better in the yoga cycle. And this is the only session for today. So at the end of this, when we wrap up, you have, I mean, you could attend some of the other sessions that are happening. I'm going to be attending one of those that is with the TC, that is talking to all the project leaders and such. But and we are not catching up tomorrow. I mean, our first PTG sessions really begin on Wednesday, but tomorrow there are a bunch of useful sessions, cross-project ones, such as the OO NFS changes, the community-wide secure RBAC goal discussions in different channels. There is some some other sessions with the interop working group and others. So do check out the project team gathering webpage, as well as the list of etherpads, which should hopefully be accurate at this point, discussing what exactly these teams are talking about. All right, that said, let's get cracking on our Xena cycle retrospective. So I'm going to give folks a little bit of time to go ahead and still add stuff if they want to. So we wanted to discuss what went well, what we need to improve upon, and anything else that you want to bring up that concerns our work in the Xena cycle. And while you do that, I'm going to take you through the 2021 user survey, whose results we kind of got, about midweek last week. And there are some interesting insights for us to consider in this. So let's get started from the thing. So there is a link to the 2021 user survey on the Xena retrospective etherpad. If you don't know how to get here, you would be on the Yoga PTG etherpad. This is the etherpad that we're going to take our notes in. Confusingly, we've not done that so far. We've put it all in the planning etherpad. So I'm going to be dragging topics from the planning etherpad out to the PTG etherpad. But today we're probably not going to take notes over here because we decided to spawn a different etherpad for the Xena retrospective. But feel free to kind of sprinkle notes. I'm going to look at all of these when I'm compiling the summaries for this PTG and stuff. So and if you have any issues accessing any of these, need a link, let me know. All right, let's step back. So yeah, so to the 2021 user survey, we had a few questions. I think we proposed four separate questions, and they allowed us two at the very end, and I think they ended up picking the ones that worked best with the survey format. And it was quite a bit of discussion with them, and them being the Open Infra Foundation that runs these surveys. So folks at the Open Infra Foundation had prior knowledge about who takes these surveys and what is the kind of questions that have typically gathered more input, and what kind of makes sense in terms of tracking things from a previous survey to the next survey and beyond, right? So a lot of those metrics go into deciding what kind of questions to post on this survey. And so I think we came up with 4 of those, but you will see just 2 of those highlighted on this because that's what we've gathered responses for. So at the outset, we had the first one, which was, do you have any use cases to run the Manila shared file system service in a standalone manner? I think out of the 596 responses, again, take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of those responses could be half finished responses or duplicate submissions. So cleaning out much of the data, I was able to distill these figures, but this could still be an approximation because this isn't exactly matched with unique submissions and such. So yeah, out of 596 responses, most questions have about 200 responses, really. So it is a huge difference between the number of submissions of the user survey. Some of them, I don't know if they were auto saved at some point or just submitted, but there is quite a difference between the number of actual responses and the responses that you can make some sense out of. So here's the question: do we want to be able to run Manila in a standalone manner without any of the OpenStack services? And we had 3 options. We had yes, blanket, yes, I just want to be able to run Manila, nothing else. And we had yes with Keystone, and no. And I would take the no with a pinch of salt again, because 107 out of the 129 responses that took this question said no. Again, because I'm not sure if they're not running Manila at all. So that's why I would take that a little less seriously, I think, because it's possible that if you have a deployment that does not use Manila and you saw this question, you probably said, yeah, I don't know what Manila is, or I don't want to run it in a standalone manner. But interestingly, it does look like there is some interest in running Manila in a standalone manner, and split between thinking about Manila without the multi-tenancy aspect that Keystone gives us versus alongside the multi-tenancy aspect that Keystone gives us, which is interesting. And this is kind of in line with what we kind of thought about what folks want to do with Manila. And yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this. And let's move on to the next question. How would you like us to improve the OpenStack shared file system service? And this was a kind of a multiple choice question. What we were looking for was like a ranked list of things, but this survey could not let us, drag and drop and rank things. So it was just a multi-select in this case. So you will see overlapping answers. And we had about 50 responses for this question. And these are the numbers from the 50 responses. Of course, the most popular ones seem to be active, high availability for the Manila Share Manager service. I mean, 3 out of 5 people think that is the thing that we ought to work on. And after which is the better integration with the OpenStack compute service. And this was kind of a leading question because we were starting to discuss VertiOFS. We did that at the Wallaby and the Xena PTG sessions. So that's what led us to ask this particular thing. And it's interesting to see about 3 out of 5 people wanting to see that as well. And a little more interesting is probably the unified limits for quota control. We did a little bit of the investigation with one of our outreachy projects recently with replacing the Coda system that we currently have, or supplementing it with storing Codas and Coda tracking with Keystone, which is what is called the Unified Limits project. And there hasn't been a lot of that. The usage of unified limits in the other services in OpenStack as well. You will see if you looked at the Xena release cycle that Glance has worked on it a little bit. So it's cool that it's getting some prime time right now, and maybe that is something that we ought to work on in the next cycle or two as well. And apart from that, the generic share server solutions for all backends with fault tolerance and scalability, it's a nice wish list item that we've always thought about. And our initial thing was with VMs, but we wanted to we did have a concept idea where this could be with containers, but the aspect of allowing any driver to interact with these and to have share servers that are created for these drivers by Manila itself generically. And an equal interest in seeing the OpenStack SDK and OpenStack CLI integration. So at least that's about 2 out of 5 people that think that's important for us to consider. And we had some other suggestions as well, cleaning out some of the stuff. We had folks wanting better documentation, and specifically on how to integrate with data center networks, better Active Directory integration. Using VirtIOFS would be nice. Being able to reattach volumes on new Manila service instances, that is to recreate new service instances with the same attached volume, and to be able to do rolling upgrades on the service instances. So this is probably people that are that someone that is using the generic driver or the Windows driver, I think. Windows installers, I actually don't know what this means. I'm not sure if they're attempting to run OpenStack on Windows, or if they're attempting to run Manila on Windows, but this is interesting. And by checking the OpenStack certification support mark or testing with RefStack. Okay. So these are some of the feedback that we have, which is pretty cool. And we had another question that gathered practically no responses. I mean, we had 2 responses out of all of the survey users, and it's like it's a little weird. And I think something happened here, which is that the survey was opened before our questions were actually added. So this was a remnant of the previous surveys. And this question basically was like the, we've had this question around for too long with the OpenStack user surveys, which is, which driver are you using? And we've just had 2 responses this time, which was one, somebody said CephFS, and somebody's using Windows and Dell EMC, Unity, I think. But I would not consider this question because, again, we did not get any responses, and this was removed from the user survey eventually before the actual questions were added in. And some other key takeaways that that might be interesting to our group would be, like, there are a lot of people, about 168 people that responded to the Keystone questions that are looking for better RBAC, and the better RBAC would mean 3 things really in the gamut of questions that were asked. One was the ability to have read-only RBAC roles, something that we've been actively working on past few releases, and the ability to have fine-grained access control, which has been the goal. And the other thing that's not mentioned there is the observability of policies. You'll see that show up somewhere else. And out of the projects that organizations contribute to the maintenance releases, patches for bug fixes, code reviews, etc. So these are people that, I mean, this question is based to check if you're using OpenStack, sure, but are you also actively contributing to its development, which could be reporting bugs, grooming bugs, contributing code fixes, documentation fixes, etc. And out of I think 127 respondents for that question, we had 67 of them include Manila in them, which is a pretty huge number. And that might be I mean that's quite encouraging, and it's this I want to see this question in the next few surveys and see how that grows or changes over a period of time. All right. And if something is of interest, this might be a reflection on the whole OpenStack community, which is what prevents somebody from contributing to these to these projects. What makes things more difficult, and a lot of them, I actually don't have a breakdown of the number of them that said that they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough time, they don't have enough money to make things happen. And they've also taken the opportunity to thank the community in this space. If you look at the responses, but when they do have the time or the money, if there are some challenges that, for instance, we have specifically tried to address in the past, which is time zones are hard. COVID. There is a lack of face-to-face time. There is a communication problem, a language barrier, and the bug tracker is quite peculiar. It is an inconvenient variant of patches receiving. There are things such as we focus on addressing bugs and enhancements that we need, but some projects have major lead times between patch contributions and reviews, and many picky reviews on non-critical areas. Thus, we are unable to contribute significantly, in this case to Nova, unless needed, because the staff gets frustrated with the lack of progress and are on short contracts. And a similar flavor of things such as cumbersome upstream review process. There's no testing of this whole area on DevStack, so here's a -1. As an operator, I have little or no interest in DevStack or fix its technical debt, but here I am with a patch that I can't get merged. The community seems slow to review and adopt patches, which discourages participation. Months will pass without feedback or resolution. And yeah, I think that's mostly it. And there's a lot of flyby or seasonal contributions that folks want to make, but this sort of discourages them. The aspect that they're only able to devote a little amount of time, and not a lot is happening within that limited amount of time. So that's mostly the user survey as it pertains to us. If you're looking at it and if you think there's something else that we ought to talk about, please add it on here and bring it up. I think some of the other lessons that for us is I want to restructure this question, kind of try to give folks an option to say, okay, I don't use Manila, or I'm not intending to use Manila, but I still want us to consider this, because I mean, we do test standalone Manila with Keystone, and and it is a focus area for us, and it's good to see that people are interested to run it. So the other takeaway that I had was subjective questions are hard. This looks like a really long survey, and I took it, but I didn't submit my responses. But I took it just to see, how far along I can get, and it took a lot of time. So there is definitely a survey fatigue that sets in, I'm sure, for most people. So they do need to, at least cut down on things that probably make you think too hard. But it's a very difficult question, again, because a lot of times the kind of questions project teams really want to ask is, what do you want us to do? Like, what is the big thing that you think we're missing and stuff? And those are this kind of subjective questions. And there weren't a lot, and the kind of answers were like, I don't know, and so it wasn't too helpful to have those subjective questions. But that's something, I mean, we didn't ask any subjective questions, so but even if we didn't, we automatically got the other answers for this question, which was what should we be looking to improve, where we had some choices, and we had an other where they could put in stuff. So maybe a combination of things still did work. Anyway, so any questions, any feedback for this user survey that we should take in, into account for the next time? If no,
I got them.
Sorry. Hey, hi.
Can you hear me? Okay. So just wanted to highlight that I was kind of impressed by the importance that users are giving to the review process. I know that we have mentioned this in several PTGs in the past, but I think it's a good thing to mention again, the importance of getting reviews on time, even though if you're not, like, if any contributor is not so comfortable giving their feedback, any feedback is better than none. So yeah, just wanted to encourage people in this call to actually go there and help with that as well for the next cycle. That's
Absolutely. It. No, I completely echo that, and which is, I mean, we've tried to make that a little accountable from the community's perspective. So let's talk about that, because I did see a topic on the Xena list as well. So let's dive into that and kind of see if we can improve that for the yoga cycle. Thanks, Victoria. All right, and I mean, the other things that we did speak about, we're going to talk about it throughout this PTG. So if you see that something that you're interested to talk about, bring it up if it's not on the PTG, planning that we've done. All right, so let's dive in. So I have some responses for the what went well, what needs improvement. So let's get started from the very beginning. So we added a new core reviewer. This is something that we're very, very, very glad to do, cycle and cycle over, because we're always looking for folks that are going to help us maintain and sustain this project. So thank you for joining us, Xena. And I want to do more of this. Like, I mean, I'm actually, I think that was great for us, but we are in the process of mentoring more folks. So if you're interested to be a maintainer, to ping any core reviewer and chat with them, and they can tell you what it means to be to be a core reviewer, and they can guide you, they can mentor you along the way. And we also have a lot of the other, we've broken down the responsibilities into sub teams, and so there is an easier ramp. So it's not very overwhelming if you want to decide to do something like that. So that's a good call out. Any comments on that? All right, moving on. New contributors. This is again an ongoing highlight, and something that I'm especially proud of when I'm talking about this community, representing this community elsewhere, etc. Which is that we've just hit it out of the ballpark each time with this and each release rolling with the kind of outreach activities that we do. I mean, the principal thing of it, which is two more successful outreach internships. We're actually joined by our outreach interns, Archana and Kafilat. So nice to see you again here. So they did amazing work with their projects, and they're continuing to be part of the community. So that's another huge feather in our cap. And alongside, we concluded the Boston University project in the Xena cycle with the OpenStack SDK work. Ashley, Nicole, and Mark, and all three of them have jobs right now. I don't know where they are. Just kidding. Ashley is actually with us today, which is pretty awesome. So another success story where we actually have, meet new talent like this, and help them, coach them to get to know OpenStack, to contribute to OpenStack, and see and seed this curiosity and probably an interest to have a career in this path. And this is new news, not with the Xena cycle, probably with the yoga cycle, which is that we're continuing the same thing with 4 more students from Northeastern University. You're going to see them at a later time during this PTG, and they're continuing the work that Ashley, Nicole, Mark, and Kafilat did on the OpenStack SDK. Along with, we also had the Grace Hopper celebration. We had it twice this cycle, during the Xena cycle. And both the times, I think we had quite a lot of Manila participation. And this is, I mean, it's an exceptionally unique event where we get to see and actually go back and kind of go back to the basics and draw an inspiration of how to actually start contributing, how to look at code, like a completely new contributor and stuff. So this both of those open source days were pretty good, successful events. In my view, we had a lot lesser but focused participation in this in the GHC Open Source Day that happened a few weeks ago. But yep, so this is just the the good things that we had with our new contributors. Does anyone want to add anything? I forgot that we had AIs from the last cycle up here, and out of that, I think we had an action item that said keep doing things that work well, and part of that was outreach. And I think we're doing amazing with that. So I want to especially thank the mentors that are part of this call today, starting with Victoria. She's been involved with all of these projects, and she's also been the person mobilizing many of the other mentors. And if you've participated in Outreachy as a mentor, or with any of these projects as a mentor, thank you so much for your involvement with this. Any other comments? Am I forgetting something? All right, let's move on. The next thing would be the OSC Hackathon. I think this was, I don't know, a pleasant surprise to me. It was crazy. We had, like, I think we finished the Xena cycle, took an action item about how to do OSC. It's not up here, but it's probably in the OSC notes. And Mari is here today. So she put together a bunch of to-dos for for the whole of the Xena cycle and beyond, what we need to do for OSC. We're going to see some more of that because we're not completely done yet. but the hackathon was crazy. I think I don't actually have the stats. Maybe we should dive more into them when we speak with Mari on Friday. But do you want to add stuff to this, Mari?
So yeah, it was really cool. So much was done, and thanks everyone who joined, and thanks for Gotham to organize it. And yeah, it's amazing because we had a list that I was thinking I'm gonna do alone, and like it was gonna take me like 6 more cycles, honestly. So and now it's, I think basically we have a few patches left, and so we're almost there. So it was like really cool. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, and it was also a good opportunity to get to know a lot of new people and review each other's code. It was pretty awesome. So we should try to replicate that in the yoga cycle as something we want to take as an action item. Except I mean, and it's also going to be fun trying to find one more of those collaborative activities. But for OSC, this is a huge win. And let's talk more about OSC and all things Python Manila client on Friday, and see what we have to wrap up over there. Any other comments?
Let's brainstorm so we can find a task like that one to do for this cycle, because it was a lot of fun. Like I had a really good time on the OSC hackathon.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Victoria. All right. So let's move on. The next one was bug management. Yeah, Vida has a lot of stats over here. First off, I wanted to thank Vida for keeping us honest with the bugs. And it is a lot of work, and she thinks of a lot of different innovative things. She comes up with different ways that we can attack these, and I think it's all those strategies have worked wonders for us, from going, I don't know, I think a couple of cycles ago, not having any sort of bug management besides, let's look at whatever bubbles to our inboxes, to today being very quite focused and knowing exactly what goes into our trackers, and what lies there for a while and whatnot. So Vida, do you want to share these stats or go through them?
Yep, thanks, Gav, I'm sure. So we had, yeah, it's very inspiring that these new things that we try actually respond so well. I mean, our ultimate goal is to improve the quality, the code quality, of course. And then as part of that, we benefit by the reducing the bug backlog, and which has been like tremendous. And we really, it's all community. And the more we encourage the community to contribute, the better everything will improve. So we've been trying to make these, events fun, and also make them not too overhead prone, so that people can contribute. Even like micro work will help. So the main bug event that we had was the bug squash. That's on line 83. And anybody wants to look at the details of what we looked at, that's the EtherCalc. And so we total looked at 33 bugs. And of those bugs, we basically fixed 15 of them. And so almost half of the list was knocked off after this session. And this is, some of the bugs, some of the fixes they take a long time to review. They're complex. So it's a huge achievement. I just have to, say thanks to everybody who contributed, or everybody that watched it, because there's always room to be included. The next event, which was the first time, because we have done the bug squashes before, but this stale bug, on line 89. This was the first time we attempted it. I was looking at the stats, and I was seeing that, a bulk of maybe 2/3 of our bugs are over 2 years old. And they haven't had any participation or any updates at all in like 2 years. So that was basically the preface about this whole item. And as you can see, there was 35 bugs that met the criteria. The criteria was any bug that's older than 2 years old, and it hasn't had any updates in a year. And so we made this, split it up between people, contributors, such that no contributor had to spend more than like half hour, 15 minutes, half hour. Criteria was well defined, and it was just a quick assessment. Should we, is this bug, basically the question was, is this bug still exist? Is it still relevant? If it's not, just, file it and deal with it. So again, about 34% of the bugs that we had on the list have been pretty much resolved to this date, which is a third, and that's really good. But the effort is still going on. I just want to mention that these stats are as of this morning. So there's still room to grow. And it's, if you look at the list, it's basically split up to like no more than 4 or 5 per person. So we don't want to overwhelm anybody, and we want to make it fun. So great job, everybody. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Vida. These are, interesting numbers. And if you probably thought, that 34% is not all that much, I personally believe that it is a huge number, given that these bugs are over 2 years old. So a lot of the people that have context probably have moved on. So even to try and look back at it, ask for more information, etc. It's a big challenge. So having folks go back and comb through them again and do this much progress is quite a bit. Thanks for getting us started on this effort. And good to see that this is ongoing. So technically, you will see more feedback on this. We will chase this down to 0. And we're going to see at least either 100% resolution on this or close to that. And we're, going forward, I think speaking with Vida, we're going to tighten that window for the stale bug review. So technically, this is just the first time we've started it. So it's bugs that are 2 years old or beyond. But if we start getting down our bug backlog, it'll probably come down to bugs that are a year old, or bugs that are 6 months old and stuff. So that gets us to focus more on things that are still relevant in the code base or inside the releases that we are still caring about.
Definitely. I just want to clarify, this 34% resolved means that those bugs are actually off the list. They were either fixed already, or they were no longer valid. So they actually were removed from the list. But more than half of the bugs have been reviewed, and now we know which ones we need to focus on. So there's action item on the rest of the ones that were reviewed, which is good, because now during the weekly bug meetings, we will basically loop these back out to the community, and we know which ones to review, or some have been already assigned to people, so they already have a path forward. The rest of the bugs, like at least more than half of the bugs, have a path forward to resolution. But these 34% is like gone from our list and from the backlog, which is really amazing.
Awesome.
If anybody wants to look at the stats, the stats are on this EtherCalcs at the bottom, and with the stale bug one, I plan to continue to update it as more contributors get a chance to complete the assignments.
Great. Thanks, Vida.
Sure.
Any comments or concerns about the bug process? And I think one takeaway from last time was we thought of having bug squash events around M1, M2, and M3, but it got really busy. We had an M1 bug squash, an M2 bug squash, and an M3 hackathon. So we kind of, we kind of changed our goals around that. And I think, how did that work with folks? I mean, was that a lot of, a lot of it to take for one cycle? Was that actually less than what you were expecting? What did you feel?
Yeah, I think it's a good frequency for like the bug squash we are having and the hackathon. The hackathon, I think it could be like a few weeks sooner than it was during this cycle because it was quite close to the feature freeze and such. So yeah, but I think the frequency is good and the hackathon, as Victoria and you already mentioned, was great, and we've got a lot of participation, and it was quite funny to get to know other people or to review other code. So, yeah, that was awesome, and yeah. But other than that, nothing else to add.
Awesome. Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, I agree. Having the hackathon just close to feature freeze was probably taking attention away from feature freeze reviews and the code.
Similar feedback over here. I think the amount of events that we have were good, and the separation between each of those was good as well. I'm thinking about hackathon, the sprints we did, doing the bug triaging, and also the share reviews. Sorry, I'm trying to find the word for it that we use. Collab reviews.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think we have roughly some sort of 8 to 10 of those altogether, more or less.
Of the total number of reviews that we had.
No, I'm thinking of all. Like we have 3 bug triage events.
Yeah.
The hackathon, and then 3 or 4 collab reviews.
Of those collab reviews, yeah, you're right. Like I think we haven't recorded and published all of them. We've only done the collab reviews that we do at the very end of the cycle for the feature freeze. Those are on YouTube, but you're right. Like we did a lot of those alongside the bug squashes. I think that was the next point of what went well, which was I think we did this for the first time, sharing how we go through a code review. And that was to try and show folks, what exactly, how exactly you should review, which is, we hadn't thought of wanting to do something like that before. So that was a good experience.
Yeah, agree. And I just want to keep this number in mind so we do something similar for the next cycle. Like I think it was a good amount of paying attention of what was going on with the community and with Manila, and also it was not so much that would overwhelm us. So I think it was a good balance. And for the reviewers, samples or basically tutorials that we did, I think it was it's something we need to repeat in every cycle since we are getting new people involved all the time. So I think it's something that we should keep doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria. Any other feedback regarding the community events? All right. If there's nothing else, let's move on to what needs improvement. We're actually so good. We're when we're talking about the good things that happen, we're also looking at how we can do them better. But we actually have a couple of things in the what needs improvement column, so that we need to this thing. So one of them is the long review times and fix merges. This is a theme even from the user survey. Um, and yeah, I want to hear from you, like in terms of I mean, there are some things that we tried to do, which is try to use this review focus etherpad. We've done that only from I think the Wallaby cycle, where we started putting things into an etherpad and having folks assigned as owners for these reviews, and these owners would collaborate with the patch author and try to get that code merged. Which the whole idea was that something does not languish over a long period of time, but we still see that quite a bit. I mean, there's quite a bit of a time elapsed between the time that somebody's had a patch ready for review and finally that patch is merged. And to be very honest, I think during the feature freeze that kind of gets a lot, and you will start seeing personal PMs from me or pings on the channel saying let's pay attention to these patches and stuff. And I have no problems trying to track that and do that, but I want to understand, what is there something that we should be doing better, so as to avoid that last minute merge panic, which I mean, it was a lot less this cycle, but it could also be because we were delivering just a handful of big features and a lot of small stuff at the very end. Uh, but that may not be true for every cycle. Some cycles we've taken on a lot more work. So uh, this is something that definitely needs to be talked about again and again and again. And I'm, to some extent, we might actually be stagnating in ideas with about how to get a better review process. So I mean, think for a sec. Do you really do you have any suggestions at all on how we can make that better? One suggestion in the past has been try to discuss how you do your review, which is kind of why we did the collab reviews. And another was to discuss what is your philosophy for reviewing at all, which I think I mean, some people spoke about review cadence, which is I look at it in the mornings. I look at it, just when I'm done with my regular work. I look at it at regular breaks when I'm doing my work, etc. But there was some aspect of a review discipline. Okay, I've got to get X number of patches reviewed in a day. Or things that I've signed up for, I will check on them every couple of days, ping the patch author if they've not done their rebases or submitted their next patch and stuff. So we've spoken about a bunch of these in the past. Did anybody think of, hey, I need to do this other thing, or maybe the community needs to do this other thing during this cycle?
Gotham, I think like the strategy that we tried, bulk reviews, because we track the number of bugs in progress. And I think that was very helpful. Also, collab review session that we had was very helpful, at least for me. And the bulk review one was the one that made a big dent in the number of patches that were just bottlenecked somewhere. And we were able to merge, I don't know, more than half of the bugs after that session. So
Nice.
there was a
I
lot of
totally forgot.
participation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot this. We did that. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
It wasn't part of the bug management per se, but
Yep.
remember, like the number of bugs in progress were around 129, like 130. And by the time we were done, it was actually right around 100, like low hundreds. We
Okay.
really did a good job on that one. And I was just looking at if anybody looks at the Launchpad numbers, there is a tag that follows this in progress. And it looks like it's creeping back up to like what higher 120s.
I see. Okay. So that seems like something that we can continue to do, which is some sort of, I mean, the get focus specifically around bug fixes.
Yeah. Yeah, because, if there is a proposed fix and we drag it for months, that fix could have been in the code sooner and benefited our community, the user community. So I think it's a big impact, probably.
Do you think that the call was the reason we did that? Or, I mean, we've done that over IRC and sharing that review focus etherpad. And the review focus etherpad's like, okay, here's the milestone, here's what we're tracking for that milestone. And sometimes we kind of see these reviews drag until the end of the milestone, and then all of them merge, right? Something close to that. We don't do stuff until we see that deadline, I think. But with this, the one that you're talking about during the bug squash, I think we had a call that we went through each of these, right? If I remember, Victoria and you drove that call with different, in progress bugs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
is
that's
that
how we conducted it. Yeah. And it seemed like, because it was introduced, everybody was kind of, it was in their attention, and there was a call for action. It really did bring some contribution from the community. That was helpful, I think. Victoria, any thoughts on that?
No, nothing else to add, honestly.
I mean, that was a good event as well, and I've seen Cinder doing something kind of similar to that. They usually hold like a festival of extra small reviews, and we could, and it's becoming frequent because I often receive like an email in the mailing list from them doing that event, and I think we could do that, keep doing that for like the bugs as we've done, or we could like try another way that fits best for us. We can take a look at the patches we have opened, and then see what's the majority and what we should be acting on, and then we could just try to hold like meetings with frequency, because we've seen that it worked just fine in case of the reviews for the bugs. So yeah, I think it's a great idea, and we should possibly continue to do that as well.
awesome? Yep. Thank you. I've not participated in one of these, but I can tell. I think it does bring a lot of focus, and I probably need to go look at what the Cinder community is talking and discussing with their retrospective and seeing how that goes. It's certainly a great idea. So let's work on these, I suppose. And we're at the hour, and so let's wrap up. I don't know if we had. Oh yeah, we had one other thing, which was our eternal problems with EtherCalc. And it goes out of it kind of stops functioning just about the time when we want it, right? During a bug squash event, or when we're trying to talk about it at the IRC meetings. So does anyone have a better alternative that we can have for the community EtherCalc? We can talk about that very quick if we want, or we can follow up, after. All right, sounds like none. So we'll see. In case if you can think of something, do let us know. Vida will be very thankful for not facing those outages that we've had. But otherwise, I guess when we do have these outages, we can pop into the OpenDev infra and let them know. They can kick the server that runs this EtherCalc software, and things do seem to like come back. But they have not been able to identify what the issue is on their end. That's what we've heard. All right. So that's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Like I said, we have no other sessions today. Feel free to collaborate with other teams and bring back anything that we need to talk about or work on. And tomorrow we have no further sessions as well. But take a look at the PTG Etherpad, and you will see some other cross-project sessions that are interesting. So feel free to attend those and discuss Manila stuff at these events. We'll be starting off on Wednesday with a discussion on Manila share transfer between projects. And you can see the rest of the agenda for Wednesday. So excited to meet you on Wednesday. Thank you so much for attending today. So let's wrap up.
Thanks, Gautam.
Yep.
See you
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Gautam. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.